Well, guys, it's me and KTX again. It's 4:16 in the morning, and still getting some clothes washed before my trip. I mean, anyways, I saw a video earlier of Stephen Rose's review of Ted 2. Now, I will give my own review of Ted 2. Now, keep in mind, I did not watch the first Ted. But I've heard from many different people, hey, you know what, this is a great movie. You should watch it. Well, I don't know. Like before, when Ted came out, I wasn't as big a fan of Family Guy as I am now. So, I think maybe it'd be in my best interest to see the first one. But nonetheless, Stephen Rose called me up or texted me. He's like, hey, do you want to go see Ted 2, 11:15? So I was like, sure, it's his birthday night, sure. Like, why not? It'll be fun. So him and I went and go see Ted 2. Uh, the movie itself is almost 2 hours, and not seeing the first one. I'll just jump right into the second Ted. So basically, the setting starts out where Ted is marrying his girlfriend, his longtime girlfriend, Carrie Lynn or something like that. So they get married, and then they live the life of, I guess, two people living off of a grocery store income. And then they get into a fight because they can't agree on stuff, and then they have a huge fight, and next thing you know, they're not talking at the grocery store, and one of the coworkers that said, you and your wife, you're still not talking, and uh, Ted was like, nah, we're still not talking, and it kind of sucks. And she's like, well, what, she pointed to this couple, and we're like, what keeps them together is a kid. So she mentioned to Ted, hey, why don't you bring up the subject of having a baby with Carrie Lynn? So he was like, you know what, that's a great idea. So Ted goes in the back room, talks to Carrie Lynn. It's like, hey, uh, let me talk to you. I was hoping that we could have a baby. And she was all up for the idea. But, however, Ted is a bear. He doesn't have the right anatomy in order to have a kid with Carrie Lynn. So what they end up doing is him and Mark Wahlberg, they decide to think of who could be a donor after Ted told Mark Wahlberg that they're going to have a baby. So, so what they do is Ted has the idea, hey, let's go and get a sample from Tom Brady, the quarterback of the New England Patriots. So they act as AC repairmen. It's like, hey, your AC is out. So they act like they're going to repair the AC when really they mess up Tom Brady's AC, and he has to open up the windows to his house because it's all hot and stuff. So that's when Ted and Mark Wahlberg, they go into Tom Brady's room and try to, like, do whatever, and uh, then Tom Brady catches them in his room and tells them to get the heck out. So they did, and he threw Ted down to the ground floor. So they had to think of another idea when they decided to go the route of Mark Wahlberg being the sperm donor for Ted's baby. So that happened, but unfortunately, um, Carrie Lynn wasn't fertile enough or had the lack of fertility in order to have a baby. So so that X'd out that idea, which came almost to the last idea, the last resort of adoption. So they end up going that route, but unfortunately, after whoever reviews the applications for the parents, for future parents, they realized that Ted wasn't a actual human. So that got him into a lot more trouble with the state of Massachusetts. And he went to court and actually lost the ruling to the judge. And they deemed him property of the state of Massachusetts. So, as you can imagine, he was all distraught. All his credit cards got canceled. All his subscriptions got canceled. And they didn't know what to do. So, they went to the judge, to a new lawyer, I should say. One that was played by Morgan Freeman, who is deemed supposedly the best lawyer in the movie in the country. So after he reviewed Ted's case, he was like, well, I like what you're doing, but unfortunately I can't do this because he didn't believe in it or whatnot, so they were stuck. But so after that, you know, they went to this anime convention. Ted did, because he was so fed up of this like rookie lawyer that that ended up losing the case, but they were trying to find a way of them winning by trying to get Morgan Freeman to agree to take his case. So in the meantime, they were just traveling New York after they met up with Morgan Freeman, and Ted was so fed up. He was like, oh man, Morgan Freeman didn't help me, and I'm all pissed off, and I'm just gonna walk away and just leave you two lovebirds alone. So Ted ends up going to this New York Comic Con where he meets all of, I guess, his kind, where he feels like he fit in with a bunch of misfits, a bunch of just, characters. When there's these other two guys that were plotting to capture Ted and make millions of Teds after seeing what was inside of Ted that made him alive. So they ended up catching him, but Mark Wahlberg ran into a friend of Ted that ran into Ted and Mark Wahlberg earlier, and he's like, oh, well, Ted's in that back room, in that electrical room with some two guys, and before they were able to rip him open all the way, Mark Wahlberg came in. He was like, what the hell are you doing? And get away from Ted. And basically, just, it was a lot of, like, fight scenes and all that, but eventually Ted and Mark Wahlberg escaped, but not before the guy that captured him was trying to destroy Ted, but Mark Wahlberg got in the way, because he shot down like a USS Enterprise kind of ship model, and instead of it hitting Ted, it hit Mark Wahlberg, so he ended up going to the hospital, and I guess he was in a coma. And the lawyer of Ted and Mark Wahlberg, they fell in love, and I guess since he was in a coma, they couldn't really talk to Mark Wahlberg, and the doctor was like, well, I don't know if he's going to wake up, and next thing you know, he flatlined, so they sent the medics in to try to revive him, and they were like, well, we need for you to wait outside. So after they were waiting in the waiting room for, I guess, a couple of hours, he came out, the doctor came out, was like, oh, by the way, unfortunately he didn't make it, so if you want, just come in to the room and you could say your goodbyes. So Ted gave his final goodbye to Mark Wahlberg, but it was a funny part, like Stephen Rose said, when he sprung up from his bed, is like, ha, gotcha. He like trolled Ted and trolled everyone in the room. And he's like, hey, we sure did get him, huh, Doc? And then the doctor gave a thumbs up. So, I thought that was pretty good. It had some humor. Um, Out of a 10, I gave it a 9.2. And the reason why I didn't give it a full 10, there were some drug references which I don't do. Some like pot and just stuff like that that I don't do. I kind of was frowning upon, and then the excessive language. I mean, I cuss, but like it was a lot. So I mean, I'm not to say, oh, I watch Aladdin and all that shit. No, that's not true, but it was just a little much for my taste. Other than that, Ted 2 is a must-watch in my opinion. Uh, Again, I'm going to start to make more videos, you know, to try to have more charisma. Just work on my YouTube, charisma. See how that goes. So, that is my review of Ted 2. It came out in theaters, I believe, this past weekend. And I heard it didn't do well in theaters because still Jurassic World and Inside Out are dominating the box office. But go see it. Go see it. It is a great movie to see. Mark Wahlberg. It reminds me, he has a lot of Family Guy references. So if you don't watch Family Guy, if you don't watch it, you may find it a little hard to get into. But if you watch Family Guy, you'll just fit right in. So that's my review, Ted 2, and I guess that's it for now. Maybe I'll make a Terminator Genisys review. So we'll see what happens with that. So till the next time, again, as always, this is your boy, NKTX, aka John Alves, signing out.